Hey everyone, glad you're here. Quick question for you. If you're approaching Medicare or already on it, do you feel like you have a plan or just a plan that you picked? Because there's a difference. Most people don't set out to build a strategy, they just choose something that sounds good at the time. Sometimes that works until something changes. If you've ever wondered whether your setup really fits your long term needs, type plan in the comments. If we haven't met yet, I'm Casey Alban. I help people think through Medicare decisions and design a strategy that fits their life today and for years down the road. And of course, my goal here today isn't to sell you anything, it's to help you see what a well designed Medicare setup actually looks like. Today, we're going to simplify this. I'm going to walk you through what a good Medicare strategy looks like, how that's different from just picking a plan, and the key pieces that tend to hold up over time. If that sounds helpful to you, type me in the comments. And again, my name is Casey Alban. I'm the Senior Medicare Advisor here at the Alban Insurance Group. We're based in Margate, Florida. We've been in business for over 30 years, and over that time, we have helped literally thousands of people here in Florida and all throughout the country create their own Medicare strategy. A lot of my clients refer to me as their Medicare co-pilot, not only because I'm a licensed pilot, but because planning Medicare and creating a strategy is a lot like planning a flight. There's a lot of work that happens before you actually start the journey, and it's that pre-work that makes sure that you end up going where you want to. My clients don't plan my clients don't panic because they have a plan. So let's start with what usually happens. Someone's getting close to 65. They start seeing ads. It seems like William Shatner and Kelsey Grammer, they're all over the TV, right? And then a friend tells them what they picked. They hear about a zero premium plan. So they think it's just like what happens at work every year during open enrollment. You sign up for the next year. This year you take the PPO. If you don't like it, you'll take the HSA plan next year. So they choose something quickly and they move on. At first it feels fine. They have coverage, they're not thinking about it. But the problem is, there really wasn't a strategy behind it. They didn't design it, they just picked it. Now, let's contrast that. A well-designed Medicare strategy usually has a few things in common. One, it's built around how you actually want your care to work, not just for today, but for the long haul. It's not built just on price, but access. Do you want the ability to see doctors nationwide? Fewer restrictions? More control over your care? Or are you okay working within networks and referrals and dealing with pay-as-you-go costs that could add up if you had a serious issue? This is your structure decision. It prioritizes predictability. A good strategy doesn't look at today's premium. It looks at how costs behave over time, how much exposure you have if something serious happens. And I know it's cliche, but in our business, we say it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. It also looks at how stable things are likely to be over time. When you're retired, stability is important because a lot of times you're living off of retirement income that's got to last you for the rest of your life. And if you're healthy, it's going to have to last you a lot longer than if you're sick. So you're not just picking a plan. You're deciding how you want things to feel financially all throughout your retirement. And then the third component of a good strategy is that it's built for the long term. And I really think this is the big one. A good strategy considers what happens if your health changes, what happens if you travel, and what happens if you want more flexibility later on. Because Medicare decisions aren't just about today. They're about how things are going to work 5, 10, or even 20 years from now. And this is where structure starts to matter more and more as time goes on. Many of the people I work with, they end up choosing a setup that gives them more freedom of choice, more predictable costs, and a lot fewer moving parts to manage later. Now, it doesn't mean it's not, or it doesn't mean it's the only way to do it, but it tends to align with people who value control, simplicity, and long-term thinking versus short-term reactionary thinking. Just to give you an example, uh, I spoke with a lady who lived in Vermont just earlier this week. She had chosen a network-based managed care plan several years ago, and during the fall open enrollment period, almost all of the Medicare Advantage plans pulled out of her state. She ended up being enrolled back into original Medicare Parts A and B, and she didn't take any further action. And her special enrollment period, where she would have been able to enroll in a Medicare supplement plan without having to answer any health questions, it expired. And by the time she came to me for help, that window had expired, and she had to answer yes to some of the health questions. That means that she's uninsurable, and she doesn't have any protection in place now for those expensive gaps under Parts A and B if something serious happens. She's going to have to pay that all out of pocket. I felt horrible, but there wasn't anything that I could do for her. And that's an example of where people are thinking short-term versus long-term and the consequences that can create. So the real difference really comes down to this. A random plan gives you coverage, maybe coverage just for a year or two, as we saw in that example, whereas a strategy gives you clarity, confidence, and consistency over time. And most of the people that I talk to, when it comes down to it, that's really what they're looking for. Now, if you're already on Medicare and this sounds familiar, that's a very good thing. It means you didn't just pick something at random or act based on something that you saw in a TV commercial. It means you actually took the time to think it through. And that's exactly what this process is about. So if you're approaching Medicare and you want help thinking about your options, or maybe you're helping a friend or a family member try to figure it out, I'd be honored to help walk you through it. You can go to MedicareMedicareQuotes.com/Facebook, and you can grab some time on my calendar. We'll talk it through together. You can call the office at 954-970-4760, and my team will get you set up on my calendar, or just comment guide and I'll reach out and we'll take it from there. Now, here are some common questions that I hear all the time. First one is, how do I know that my current plan or the plan that I'm considering is actually a good fit? And when you're working with a Medicare advisor, one of the things that you want to do is you want to ask detailed questions. Ask them, how does it handle access? Can you see any doctor that takes Medicare anywhere in the country? Or do you have to stay within a network or pay more to go out of network? What are the out-of-pocket costs? And by the way, when you're asking about out-of-pocket costs, don't just ask about the primary care copay or the monthly premium. Ask, how much does it cost to go to a specialist? What is the daily copayment for an inpatient hospital stay? Most people who start asking those questions are surprised to find that a zero premium plan is far from zero cost, especially when they find out that with an inpatient hospital stay, they could be on the hook for up to $500 a day or more for anywhere between the first 5 to 10 days of an inpatient hospital stay. What type of skilled nursing coverage does it offer? Is it a permanent plan, or can my benefits, my network, and even my plan change year to year? And what type of flexibility does it have over time? Those are all important questions, because there's a big contrast between network-based managed care. Network-based managed care always looks less expensive up front. And most people that I know love their Medicare Advantage plans until they have to use it. I was thinking about it the other day. I get a lot of calls from people that are on Medicare Advantage plans wanting to know if I can help them switch because they've had some claims. I can't remember ever getting a call from somebody who's on a Medicare supplement plan and has gotten sick and has asked me to switch them to an Advantage plan. Another question I get is, can I change my strategy later on if I want to? Well, sometimes you can, but your options may be more limited depending on the timing and depending on your health. During last week's live stream, if you watched it or you watched the replay, one of the things I said is that when you first start Medicare, all of your options are on the table. You can choose any of the available plans in your state from any of the carriers that offer them. And if it's a Medicare supplement plan, You can choose any of the plans without having to answer a single health question, regardless of your health. But once that initial window expires, now you may have to answer medical questions. And like that nice lady that I spoke to in Vermont, you may end up being uninsurable. So that's an important consideration. I like to say that when you're first starting Medicare, you're the one that's in control. And in essence, you get to interview Medicare. But down the road, once it's been more than 6 months since you've started Part B, or you're outside of some of those initial trial periods, Medicare gets to interview you, and that determines whether or not you can make changes, what changes you can make, and what that might look like from a cost standpoint. Another question a lot of people ask is a lower premium always better? Well, when you compare Medigap to Medicare Advantage, no, a low or zero premium is not always better. But that's true when it comes to Medigap too. The initial premium on a Medicare supplement plan is nowhere near as important as premium stability over time. There are a lot of companies out there that deliberately have premium prices that are designed to be among the lowest when you first start up at age 65 or when you're first starting Medicare. And 2, 3, 4 or 5 years down the road, they start raising premiums significantly now that you're in that window when you can't switch. So it's really important to make sure, especially now, in today's day and age with medical inflation being what it is, I think it's even more important now to work with a company that focuses on premium stability over time as opposed to just being the cheapest Medigap premium available. Because most people keep their Medicare supplement plans throughout their retirement. So you want to have that predictability. You want to know that that company is going to be focused on maintaining stable premiums. And a company that has stable premiums doesn't mean that it's going to go up the same amount every year. What it means is that it's going to ebb and flow, and even good stable companies might have an off year where they have a higher than normal premium. But what that means is the way they run their business allows for a return to their historical averages. And of course, we don't have a crystal ball, but we do have history, and that's something that as a trusted agent or broker, we should be able to look at and help you find a company that is going to offer you those stable premiums over time. Another question, what should I focus on first? Well, it's important to start with the structure and the timing, not just the plan. Once you've figured out when you're going to start Medicare, whether that's at 65 or later on, the next thing to decide on is how do you want your coverage to be structured? Do you want network-based managed care, or do you want freedom-based coverage that, yes, it's going to cost a little more every month, although it's going to give you a much clearer picture of what your costs will actually be, but which structure do you want? Do you want something that's going to be set for the long term, that's going to travel with you, that's going to stay in force, or do you want to be on that year-to-year network-based structure in exchange for the lowest premium today? And that's a decision that everybody starting Medicare really needs to make. But you should decide on structure first and then choose a plan. Too many people get into situations where they see an ad on TV and they call an 800 number and they end up just choosing a plan because the person that they talk to says this is the best plan. And there's some extra benefits and the commercial says that they need to act now. That's not the way to do it. Really need to take a step back. It's important to work with a trusted advisor, someone who's going to explain all of the facts to you so that you can decide. And then at that point, you're going to be in a position to be able to choose the plan that's going to be best for you and have the right structure in place for the long term. Medicare is not complicated, but it's layered. And when you take the time to build a strategy instead of just picking a plan, everything tends to work a lot more smoothly over time. In my experience, the folks who take the time to figure out how they want their coverage structured before they ever pick a plan tend to have a much more satisfactory and successful experience over their retirement. And everything tends to work a lot more smoothly for them over time. Again, if you'd like help or maybe even a second opinion, if you're getting close to a decision and you want someone else to take a look at it, you can go to medicarequotes.com/Facebook. You can grab some time on my calendar. You can call the office directly, area code 954-970-4760, or just type guide in the comments and I'll connect with you and we'll go from there. Well, thanks again for being here. I will see you next week for next week's episode of Coffee with Casey. Have a great week.